stop. Before you microwave that plate of leftovers tonight, give me 60 seconds. Because at least 2 of the foods sitting in your fridge right now behave completely differently the second time you heat them, and almost nobody knows why. This isn't a video telling you to throw anything out. It's one small, science-backed fix for each food, simple enough to start tonight, and by the end, you'll know exactly what to do with that container sitting in your fridge right now. Here's something worth knowing before we start. As we get a little older, our digestion and our energy simply don't bounce back from a rough meal the way they did at 30. That's not a scary fact. It's just a reason to take these small habits seriously, because the payoff is real. Fewer stomach aches, steadier energy, and just feeling better after dinner. None of this requires a diet change. It requires 5 small habits, so let's get into them. I'm Dr. Lina. I spent over 20 years in emergency medicine, and these days I spend my time helping people over 50 eat in a way that actually protects them, not scares them. No long lecture, no fear-mongering, none of that. Just 5 everyday foods, what actually happens when you warm them back up, and the simple swap that fixes each one. Stick with me, because the last one on this list is the food almost everyone assumes is completely safe, and it's the one I get asked about the most. Let's start with rice, because nearly all of us do this one, and this is the one backed by the clearest food science of anything on this list. Raw rice can carry a hardy bacterium called Bacillus cereus. Cooking kills the bacteria itself, but if the cooked rice then sits out at room temperature for too long, that bacteria can produce a toxin, and that toxin survives reheating completely. So the danger was never the microwave the next day. It's the hours rice spends cooling slowly in a warm, deep pile before it ever gets cold. The fix takes 10 seconds and costs nothing. The moment your rice is done, spread the leftovers out flat on a plate or shallow dish instead of leaving it piled up warm in a deep pot. Get it into the fridge within an hour, eat it within a day, and one thorough reheat, hot all the way through, is completely fine. I think of my patient Carol, 74, who used to leave her rice cooker on warm for half the evening without thinking twice. One small change, spreading it out and fridging it within the hour, and she told me she genuinely felt lighter after dinner within a week. Do this one thing, and you get to keep your rice on the menu, guilt-free, forever. Second, chicken. I want to be upfront here. Reheated chicken that's heated through properly is not a safety problem. This one is purely about taste and texture, and it still deserves a fix. The issue is blasting it on high heat a second time until the proteins seize up and the edges turn dry, tough, and rubbery. Here's what to do instead. Reheat chicken low and slow, covered, with a small splash of water or broth in the pan so it gently steams instead of scorching. And here's a tip I give my own family. If you're not in a rush, skip the reheating altogether and eat your leftover chicken cold, sliced into a salad or tucked into a wrap. Same protein, same great taste, and none of that harsh second blast of heat. It genuinely tastes better this way, tender instead of chewy. So it's an easy habit to stick with. Quick favor before we keep going. If you've learned something new in the last 2 minutes, that's exactly what this channel is for. And hitting subscribe means you won't miss the next one. Takes 1 second. Okay, back to the fridge. Third, leafy greens, spinach especially. Fresh spinach is one of the best things you can put on your plate, rich in exactly the nutrients we tend to need more of as we age. Here's the nuance worth knowing. Spinach naturally contains nitrates, and food safety agencies in Europe specifically recommend not reheating spinach more than once, because those nitrates can convert to nitrites as the dish sits and gets rewarmed repeatedly. One reheat is not something to lose sleep over. It's the repeated reheating of the same batch that food safety guidance actually flags. So here's the simple swap. Cook only what you plan to eat that day when you can. Spinach cooks in minutes anyway. If you do have leftovers, eat them cold instead of reheating a second time. It's genuinely good folded into a salad, piled onto a sandwich, or stirred into a cold grain bowl with olive oil and lemon. Save your reheating for foods that hold up well to it, and let your greens stay fresh. Fourth, and this one surprises people every time, eggs. Eggs are one of the most nourishing foods on the planet, and reheating them isn't dangerous. It just wrecks the texture fast because eggs are almost pure protein, and protein turns rubbery the moment it's overheated. Quick myth bust while we're here. That gray-green ring you sometimes see around a hard-boiled yolk isn't a warning sign or a reheating problem. It's just a harmless reaction between iron and sulfur that happens when an egg is boiled a little too long or too hot in the first place. It's ugly, not unsafe. Here's the fix. For hard-boiled eggs, keep them whole in the shell in the fridge and peel them cold when you're ready. No reheating needed. They're genuinely just as good cold on a salad or with a little salt and pepper. For scrambled eggs, warm them gently in a pan on low heat with the lid on for a minute or two, and skip the microwave. That high, uneven heat is exactly what turns them rubbery. And fifth, the one that quietly surprises even the most health-conscious people I talk to, leftover soup or stew that gets reheated straight from the same big pot night after night. The concern here isn't the reheating itself. It's how long the food spends lukewarm each time you dip in, cool it back down, and dip in again. That in-between temperature zone is where bacteria multiply fastest, and every extra cycle adds a little more of that window. The fix. On the day you make it, portion your soup or stew into single meal containers instead of ladling straight from one big pot all week. Cool each portion quickly, refrigerate it, and reheat only the portion you're eating, bringing it fully back to a hot simmer each time. That way, you still get your whole week of homemade meals, and no single portion goes through repeated slow cool-downs and warm-ups. Notice the pattern running through all 5 of these? It's never about giving anything up. It's about slowing the reheat down, cooling food quickly instead of slowly, and cutting how many times each portion gets reheated. That's genuinely the whole secret, and it costs you nothing but a few extra minutes when you're putting food away tonight. So let's bring it all together, simply. Rice. Cool it fast on a shallow plate, into the fridge within the hour, eat within a day. Chicken. Reheat low and slow, or enjoy it cold in a salad. Spinach. Eat it fresh when you can, and if there's extra, eat it cold rather than reheating twice. Eggs. Gentle heat only, never the microwave, and don't worry about that gray-green ring. Soups and stews. Portion them out so each container only ever gets warmed once. None of this means changing what you eat. It just means being a little more thoughtful about how you bring it back to life the next day. If this helped you, send it to the person in your life who reheats the same lunch every single day without a second thought. They need this more than you'd think. And if you want to know which leftovers actually get better the next day, the ones you can reheat again and again without a second thought, I made a video on exactly that right here. Drop a comment and tell me which one of these 5 surprised you most. I read every single one. I'll see you in the next video. Dr. Lina out.